Ah, all right. Oh, goodness, it's live already. Hi, good evening, everybody. I am Reverend Sherri James. I'm the Senior Minister for Understanding Principles for Better Living Church. I am in Chicago because, my background is different. And I have to start out by saying thank you to just everybody in Chicago. You guys have treated me so well. I have to shout out Judy, Pat, Eves. Oh goodness, I hope I don't forget anybody. Alita, oh my God, Alita, her granddaughter Tatiana, Galen's daughter Angel. It's been such a huge blessing, and I thank you guys just for help with Jordan getting out and getting some delicious Giordano's pizza that we're actually eating leftovers with today. It's been remarkable, and so I just really appreciate it. Yay, Marvin's here. Let me let Marvin in. And so I am over the moon about Chicago, and Chicago has always been my favorite city on the planet of anywhere. Any place that I've been on the planet. I've been to Greece, all through Greece, Athens, Turkey, Kushadasi, Israel, Jerusalem, Tel Aviv. Um, Lived in the desert, climbed Mount Masada, all of that. Chicago is my favorite city on the planet, and this was before this trip. But you guys just like reminded me how much I just love the city. I love the people. I love the food. I love the energy. I do not love the cold, but who does. Hey, Phyllis. Phyllis is here. Good to see you, Phyllis. Thank you, Reverend JJ. She says you're gorgeous. I was mentioning earlier that it rained in Chicago earlier, and it rained like I forgot that like other parts of the country have real rain. I've been so spoiled by California because it never rains in Southern California, and then when it does, it's like an hour, 2 hours. Like it never rains for an extended period of time, except maybe once or twice during the year. And that rain was coming down, and my hair was just going. Woo, woo, woo. So. Anyway, yeah, Judy says a torrential downpour. That's exactly what it was. So tonight we're in a new series. We're in the second part of this series, and it's called Prayer, Your Best Resource. I'm going to adjust my light and see if that helps. Got some shadows on my face, but do you know how to meditate? We're going to talk about meditation from a very high level view. So we won't get into nitty gritty. We'll talk about a couple of suggestions as far as meditation, but this is really a high level view on meditation. We'll have an opportunity at a later point in the class, especially when we get to the portion where we're going to look at some material from Neville Goddard that will take us a little bit more in depth. But for right now, we're going to look at it from a very high level point of view. We have a few announcements. We have the opening prayer. We're going to talk about why prayer matters. We're going to look at what do you get when you meditate, how long before you see benefits, and what do you meditate upon. So those are the basic three questions that are going to frame our conversation tonight. And then, of course, Q&A, and you are always free to ask questions before we get to the Q&A. I generally check the chat back and forth while we are going to capture any questions that come up. Why the Bible Hangout? So this today is a prime example of why I do the Bible Hangout. One, because I love the Bible, and that was really just renewed for me today with a conversation with Dr. Will Coleman, who is a Bible extraordinaire. He is like a scholar like none other, and he talks about seeing the Bible as like a three-layer cake. And he took us through his experience with the Bible and how he experiences the text. But before he does that, or at any time, before he did that today, he went through this process where he literally just kind of blew our wigs back on Bible scholarship, on understanding the text, and it goes way beyond like just, not knowing who the writers are, but really starting to look at the Hebrew and the Greek, understanding that you haven't read the Bible if you have only read it in English, because the English is a translation, which is not the same thing as saying that English is a biblical language, and that is huge because it means that somebody is making a decision about what it is that you are reading and how you are receiving it. And it does not mean that they have a nefarious agenda, but it's just to be aware that if you're reading in the English, you're reading a version of the Bible. So the reason that I do this is because I love this information. And sitting in that class this afternoon with Dr. Will Coleman was a reminder of that, and a reminder that my interest is really in being a Jesus scholar. And the reason the Bible Hangout is free, why I'm building up to all of this, is because I believe this information should be made available to the public. And I don't think that it's something that only needs to be shared in a seminary. And I think that there is a way to talk about the information that breaks it down for the average person to grasp and to hold on to. And I have such a commitment to it that even when I travel, because I'm in Chicago, I am doing my continuing education for my teachers and ministerial license for the Universal Foundation for Better Living. And so no matter where I am on the planet, I organize my life so that I'm available Thursday nights. And the only Thursday nights that I take off are really like Christmas, New Year's, and Thanksgiving. So, meaning the Thursdays that are around those 3 holidays. In general, I'm here Thursday night, hanging out, talking about something in relation to the Bible. So that's why I do it. I love it, and I would do it just because, for no reason at all, but I really do love this information. It has been a game changer in my experience, and the more I dive into it, the more that I believe that it can be a game changer for other people, and the more that I'm committed to bringing it to you. I also always mention, because I believe in the law of giving and receiving. This is pro bono to you, meaning there's no cost to you. You can watch this anytime. But I do encourage you, if you are moved by this information and if it has helped you, if you would consider making a gift. There are many costs that are involved with bringing it to you, just with not just the research and all the time and all of that, but also the internet, the webinar service. All of those things are monthly costs that I incur, and so whatever gift you decide to give really does make a difference in being able to meet those costs. And so I thank you in advance for anything that you decide to share. So the way that this series is going to work, I wanted to do something different, and I'm looking to really improve and increase and grow with how we do the Bible Hangout. And what I have always done is that there's always been a blog that mirrors the series that we're doing on Thursday nights, and then there's a Thursday night. And what I want to do this time, and especially because our subject is prayer, is I want to form a mastermind prayer group. I sent out a post a couple of weeks ago on my blog. You can actually go there and see it. It's like, I guess today is probably the 3rd or 4th blog piece on the mastermind prayer principle, and it explains how you do mastermind prayer. So there have been people who have indicated their interest. We're going to start it next week, and I have those names. I'm going to send those names out, send an email out to those names, and we'll do it. We'll find a time that's common, relatively common, because we're all on different time zones, and we're going to start the mastermind prayer group, and it'll go for the length of the class. Now this class is about a little over 12 weeks, and so our mastermind prayer group will meet for that length of time. So we'll spend about 3 months praying together, and we'll follow the format of the mastermind prayer principle as espoused by Jack Boland, who is a Unity minister, I think, in Michigan. If you want to see that blog post, like I said, if you go to revsherri.com and click on blog, you'll be able to go right to that post and pull up that information. And I encourage you to take a look at it. It's wonderful. Even if you aren't able to participate, I think it's a good idea to even just look and see if there is a mastermind group that you can start with your friends. I'm a part of one other mastermind group, and it has been a remarkable experience. It has been a game changer as far as having like-minded people who are there to support my dreams and goals. And so I want to model this for those of you that are interested. And this is free. There's no cost for it. I do know that there are mastermind groups where you do have to pay. There's no fee for this at all. This is free, just like the Bible Hangout. I want to model this for you so that when we finish, that you will then turn around and do this with your friends. It does not have to be a religious thing. It very much can be something that is secular. I mean, you can mastermind for your business, you can mastermind for your career, you can mastermind for your relationship, you can mastermind for anything that you want to rely on the mastermind for. And for those of you that may be new to the Bible Hangout, mastermind is a synonym for God. It is very similar to the way that the transcendentalists speak about the oversoul, that we each individually have souls, but there is this oversoul in which all of the individual souls are contained. And so when we talk about mastermind, it is the mastermind that is everywhere evenly present, in which all of the individual minds are contained. So just for a point of clarity. Ray says, in my mind, there seems to be a fine line between prayer and meditation. Both seem to be direct communication with God. Can we discuss the differences? Yes, we will. We absolutely will. And if I get to the end and I don't address it, please say it to me, and we will definitely go back and visit that. But we absolutely can take a look at that. I encourage you to join us on Sundays at 1 o'clock at 600 West Queen Street in Inglewood, California. And we have a wonderful service. We have been practicing innovative worship and looking for new and fresh and exciting ways to really help people access the Spirit of God within themselves. And so I just encourage you to come. If you're in Southern California, please hang out with us. We have such a good time. It is, we do. We're a different kind of group. There was a young lady who came on Sunday. So she came for our Flip the Church service the Sunday before on the 17th of July. And then she came back last Sunday, and she was like, this is so different, because we're gay, we're straight, we're, we don't have any transgender people, but we're open to transgender. We're black, we're white, we're Asian, we're like Hispanic, or Latino, like we're everybody. Like literally, Up Church is that place where we don't just preach about love, we actually practice it. And we have this incredible synergy with all of these different people. And it's a genuine love. You can feel it when you come in that people really love one another. And we love doing church together. And it's so cool. It's like the coolest thing on the planet that like you come in and you're like, I have never gone to church where it is this level of diversity. And so it's something that we're really proud of and really grateful for, that we have found, I won't even say a spiritual formula, because the formula is to see the Christ in everyone, but a practice that, if you want to get married and your spouse is of the same sex, come on in. And it's like everybody. It's everybody. So that's why you gotta get to LA to experience this. There's nothing like it. I mean, maybe it's somewhere like this or somewhere else on the planet, but I don't know. But we got it in LA. We got it. So I encourage you to come and be a part of this incredible service and just experience the love of God that knows no bounds. We really practice that. The scripture for this series is whatever you ask for in prayer with faith, you will receive, Matthew 21:22. Whatever you ask for in prayer with faith, you will receive, Matthew 21:22. And so I tried to find a better picture this time for the opening prayer. So hopefully this looks good on the screen. I have no idea. I'm just trying something different. But if you could just take a moment to center yourself and be available to this moment. We have such an awesome opportunity in front of us to just experience God and open ourselves to the divine presence. This energy intelligence indwells each one of us. Each one of us is indispensable to the forward movement of the universe. And so we have come together in this class setting to love one another, to have fun together, to talk about prayer, and to talk about communion with God. And we just ask for the guidance of the Holy Spirit to understand this concept, to incorporate it into our lives, and to just deepen our experience with you, Spirit. We give thanks and praise for everything that you're doing in and through us and as us right now. We thank you that the work that we do tonight will take us higher as a community of people who are in love with being alive and alert and an expression of you. In the name and the nature of the one that is called the Christ, I affirm that this is so, and so it is. And amen. Okay, why prayer matters. There is a quote from Emmett Fox, and I do not have it handy, but it appears in the book on the Ten Commandments. I think it's called the Ten Commandments. Anyway, it's an Emmett Fox book, meaning it may have a different title. He may have looked for like a clever title or something like that. But anyway, it's the book on the Ten Commandments. And in that book, he talks about the value and the power of prayer. And it hit me so deeply that I share it every chance I get, which is that prayer is your only option for character change. Prayer is your only option for character change. And that is huge because your life looks the way that it looks because of your character. If there is a lot of confusion in your life, it means you're living in a confusion vibration, and there is a deep level of confusion in your character. If you are living in a space of criticism, and you are living in that criticism vibration, and there's a deep level of criticism in your character, criticism of other people and criticism of yourself. If you want to experience God, you must begin to open yourself so that the Spirit may change you at depth. You do not change you. Your communion with God changes you. You do not change you. Your communion with God changes you. So prayer is communion with God. That's how we define prayer in New Thought and in the Universal Foundation for Better Living. Prayer is communion with God. Therefore, in the absence of prayer, you have no mechanism for changing your character. In the absence of prayer, you are left to show up for life with all the same habits, behaviors, attitudes, perspectives with which you have always shown up for life. This is part of the reason why I say prayer is learning how to pray. It's one of the most important, and praying, it's one of the most important things that you can do, because how else do you change? There is no change outside of prayer. None. And so you either show up for life the same way, recreating the same mess. And you know when this has happened for you. I certainly know when it's happened for me. It might have a different pair of trousers. It might wear a different aftershave. It might have a different cologne, but it's the same old problem over and over and over again. And in the absence of prayer, you show up for life recreating the same things that you have been dealing with all your life. If you think about it, if you have always been someone that people try to mess with, how long has that been happening? Think about this. Is this something that just started happening? Or is it a recurring theme in your experience, that someone in your experience is trying to mess with you? Or everywhere you go, you just seem to attract people like, and fill in the blank. And though these aren't the types of people that you want to hang out with, They just seem to find you. So with prayer, and why it matters is that you are looking for a change at the very depth of your being. You want a different attitude, a different perspective, a different behavior, a different habit. And the only way to get it is through prayer. Otherwise, it's simply a rat. You're not a rat. I'm not a rat. But this is a metaphor. A rat on a treadmill. How about hamster? A hamster on a treadmill, a rodent on a treadmill. My point being that when you have tried to change your habits by willpower, and your willpower can will you through it for a time. But over time, you get tired of holding up the banner for change. And eventually, you slide back into the very habits that you were once running away from. What enables a new habit to stick without you having to essentially fight yourself to make it stick is that you begin with prayer. You begin with a communion with God. That when you commune with God and ask to be changed at depth in terms of whatever it is, if it's weight loss, if it's cigarette smoking, if it's sexual addiction, if it's drugs or whatever, when you ask to be changed at depth, then you begin to work with the Spirit to find the pathway that is right for your soul to be able to release the habit that you don't want and replace it with the habit that you do want. So prayer is your avenue, is your only true avenue for lasting change. So these lessons that we will be going through over the next several weeks are for the purpose of helping you understand how to commune with God so that you may be changed into the being that can receive the abundance that God has for you. You have a character around money. I don't know if your character around money is millionaire. I don't know if your character around money is, broke, or if your character around money is there's, always enough but never more than enough. Or maybe you're someone who's always in overflow. I don't know where you fall on the spectrum in terms of wealth. What I do know is that if you want to change that, if you are looking to expand that expansion begins with prayer. In the absence of prayer that asks for change at depth in regards to your finances, you are left to show up as the same person. And even though you may make more money, and I know some of you can attest to this, even though you may make more money, you are still that person who is down to the last dime on the day before payday. Tell me if that's not true. But I think that it is. So when you're talking about change at depth, it's not about how much money you have, but how you enjoy the money that you do have. Millionaire does not mean necessarily millionaire net worth. That you can develop a millionaire attitude where what you have is more than enough to spare and to share, not from you faking it, but from you genuinely experiencing it. I have a church member who says to me that I haven't worked since I was, whenever she retired, and I have more money now than I have ever had in my entire life. That when you are changed at depth, it changes the way you experience what you have. And so prayer, if you want to begin to pray about your relationship with money, you can be changed at depth so that even though you have what appears to be a little bit, your experience of it is as if there are millions in your bank account, as if there are diamonds in your backyard. And the beauty is that when you begin to behave as if there are diamonds in your backyard, the subconscious mind only knows to bring you what you experience, and so you literally develop diamonds in your backyard. But the kind of change that is needed for that type of experience only comes through prayer. And if your only idea of prayer is as what you do when you find yourself in a crisis, then you never reap the benefits of this amazing tool that was designed to help you design the life that you want to live. Not just were born to live, but want to live. So there's so much at stake with learning to pray. And what I hope is that I ignite a fire inside of you to want to learn to pray. I hope that I ignite a fire inside of you that if you do have a prayer discipline, that you double down on your prayer discipline. Or if you are new to prayer, or if prayer has been something that you've been on the fence, on and off again, on again, off again, I want to convince you to get on again and make a definite commitment to pray, and to learning how to pray. It's that important. Marvin says, Lily Tomlin says that even if you win, the rat race, you're still a rat. Yes. That's why I had to change that metaphor. But in the absence of prayer, you remain the hamster on the treadmill. The only way off the treadmill, and everybody's on some treadmill, right? You know, everybody's on some treadmill in terms of a habit that they have that is interfering or keeping them at a certain level of consciousness. And the only way off that treadmill is a character change, because you've got to realize your power over the treadmill. You got to realize the treadmill is not real, but it's a creation of your own imagination. But it's hard to see that and keep seeing that. Sometimes our consciousness changes, but it doesn't stick, and so it changes right back. So we lose the weight, but it doesn't stick, and we gain it right back. Or we stop smoking, but it doesn't stick, and we start smoking again. Or we get out of one disagreeable, abusive relationship, but it doesn't stick, and sooner or later we're back into the next relationship. So the only way to get off that treadmill for good, prayer. Ray asks for the fine line between prayer and meditation. They are both communion with God, but I wouldn't get hung up on the terminology. The terminology is for us as humans and not for God. The way that we define prayer in New Thought, and specifically in the Universal Foundation for Better Living, is that prayer is you talking to God or being in conversation with God. That meditation is taking an aspect of God and meditating, thinking about that, allowing that idea to expand inside of you. For example, if you took the idea of health, and if you set it, I like a timer because it helps my conscious mind relax. I set a timer. If I set a timer for 10 minutes, and I know for the next 10 minutes, I'm just going to think about health and look at what thoughts and feelings come up, and meditate on the health of God. Silence is where the conscious mind is still, and you are receiving direct inspiration from God. But the terminology is just for us. The terminology is not for God. It's simply a way to talk about these different forms of prayer, so that when I say prayer, it absolutely encompasses all of those different aspects. But in order for me to say prayer, and what I mean by prayer is, or prayer and what I mean by prayer in this sentence is, and that it basically, one is talking to God, one is thinking about God, and one is listening to God. Ray asks, which practice involves listening to God? That would be silence. Silence involves listening to God. Phyllis says, we have to have that prosperity consciousness always. We sure do. And praise God, Jordan got it in spades, but all of our babies do. They draw good to them. And I try to learn from him as much as I can. Phyllis says, my prayer life was always begging, pleading for what I want. Now I am understanding the correct way to pray. Absolutely. Absolutely. Dr. Coleman said something interesting today, and I think that God, I don't want to mess it up. In Constance, I may need your help to like regurgitate this. And he said, "Don't go out and teach what you just heard. Like let it marinate in you." But you're making me think about this, Phyllis, because there are people who are absolutely uh, think about prayer as like their relationship to God is from a fear posture. Their relationship to God is as God superior and me inferior. And in New Thought, we are God. That like we are God. Never for once meaning that a single person is God in totality. But just as all of the constituent parts in a drop of water, H2O, is the same as in the all of the water in the world, that we are God in that same type of relationship. And there is no point where I end and God begins, or God ends and I begins, but that we are so indissolubly linked as to be completely inseparable. And my work spiritually is to come to know myself as God and to begin to live and operate from that standpoint. So to your point, Phyllis, when you talked about the begging and the pleading, he talked about being raised in the Pentecostal tradition and being taught that fear posture. And then when he moved into a different tradition, I think he said Presbyterian, that he came out of that fear posture, but now was in this like negotiating posture where I'm negotiating with God for my good. And that now that he has moved into a more spiritual tradition based on his studies of the Kabbalah and Rosicrucianism and Theosophy and other traditions, and also becoming a Freemason, that what he has learned is that I am God, that I am the cause that sends the thought out in motion to create the effect. And so but all three of those traditions that he has he's studied a lot, but those three in broad strokes that he studied have all come from the same book, that they all take their teaching from the Bible. And so that as you are reading the scriptures, that this point of view, it depends on the standpoint from which you are approaching the scripture. Hope I didn't butcher that too much. Marvin says, through prayer we talk to God. In meditation, God speaks to us. Yes, Edgar Casey, yeah. I like the idea of walking with God, not behind or in front, but alongside. Yes, I like that idea too. And the only thing I would say, Marvin, is that it's, at least in my mind, when I read that, it still creates this idea of me and God versus God in me and God, meaning I in. You know, that this idea of side by side, for me, as I'm reading it, still communicates this idea of two entities that can be separated like raisins and bread. Oh, I like that. Constance says, God walking me. I like that. I like that. I like that. Yeah. And we, the thing is that our language doesn't allow for these types of concepts. So sometimes we struggle to communicate them because our language is very, I don't know if the word is dualistic, but where you have to have these opposites. And so it's hard to capture nuance like God in me. I am God. You are God. Maya says, greetings all. Hey, Maya. Oh, goodness. You know what? This might be Mia. Spelling my girl. I hope I didn't mispronounce it. Awesome. So what do you get when you meditate? We're going to talk about three things tonight from the benefits of meditation. One is an inner sense of peace. Two is clear direction. And three is unity with others. An inner sense of peace, clear direction, and unity with others. Being emotionally tossed by life is a choice. Being emotionally tossed by life is a choice. One of the benefits of meditation and silence is that they help you to reclaim your spiritual power. Meditation and silence help you to reclaim your spiritual power. It is challenging to what's the word? See yourself as a limited being and then step up and overcome. How you see yourself determines how you approach life. How you see yourself determines how you approach life. And so if you see yourself as a limited being, filled with trepidation, smaller than your circumstances, everything is bigger than you, then it's very challenging to show up for life and be the spiritual giant that you are. And what meditation can do for you is to help you settle down. I have found in my own experience that when I'm in the midst of some problem, whatever it is, doesn't really matter, that when I'm in the midst of some problem, it really helps me to just take 5 or 10 minutes and to just simply breathe. Really only 5 minutes, but sometimes if it's really tough, 10 minutes. Reverend Della would say, I go take a nap. I've done that too. There's something that happens when I just simply relax the mind, where I remind myself that everything is working out for my good. Everything is working out for me. In fact, those of you that are on the MBH Insider list, I know you got the free gift that I sent this week, which was something that Constance shared with me, that it's a meditation, a rampage of something that Esther Hicks used. I don't remember what the name of it is, but basically it's the refrain is that everything is always working out for me. And since everything is always working out for me, I just never really have any fear. And because everything is always working out for me, and it goes from there. But she has a name for it, and she calls it like a rampage of something. I don't know, Constance, if you remember what it is. She has one called a rampage of invincibility, but that's not the one that Constance gave me to send out. Anyway, there are different things that you can do to just simply relax the body and to relax the mind so that you can become open and available to spirit. And what the meditation can do for you is to simply relax you. Phil Jackson, from the coach for the Bulls and coach for the Lakers, talks about meditation a lot and how he used it to teach his players to calm down and to simply be in the moment with the game. That oftentimes in a high pressure situation, it's hard to concentrate. And so we make critical mistakes that cost us in the end. And if we were calmer, we would have the ability to respond more capably. Something that I'm working on personally is being able to hear critical feedback without moving to a space of defensiveness. And I have a colleague that I was complimenting because I watched her. We have a publication called The Daily Inspiration, and she's the editor for it. And a few years ago, we were in this process where she was getting feedback from the different people who, consume the Daily Inspiration, and also write for the Daily Inspiration, and also retail the Daily Inspiration. And so the room is not necessarily negative, but they're constantly lobbing all of these things that they're upset about with the DI, and they're not necessarily saying it in the nicest way, and they're just coming at her. One insult after another, and I marveled because I know how I would have reacted in that situation. And while I don't consider myself to be a hot-headed person, I do know what it feels like when I get on the defensive. And I know that when I hear that criticism, my breathing gets shallow. I can't think clearly. I'm really not hearing what the person is saying because I am constantly in defense mode. And I was telling her this recently that I really admire that. And one of the things that she said is that what I always remember is that no matter what it is that anybody is saying to me, I still sit in the position of power. And because no matter what they say, at the end of the day, it's still my decision as to what to do. And I thought that was really powerful. And it made me think about what's actually happening, that when I'm hearing the criticism, that I'm moved, and the reason I get defensive is I'm moving out of the position of power and moving to a position of inferiority. And so I'm judging myself. I'm judging myself through the eyes of the people that I think are judging me. And it's just a recipe for disaster. What meditation can give you is poise in the face of criticism like that. It is poise in the face of whatever is coming at you. And so whatever it is that is your thing, that when it comes, all of a sudden it takes you out of your happy place, or it takes you out of the present moment. What meditation can give you is a poise to face down anything, and to stand undisturbed no matter what it is that's being lobbed at you. You have the ability to do that. And meditation will release that kind of power in you. It'll release the kind of power that allows you to be what I call grace under fire, no matter what it is, whether it is being at the edge of financial ruin and holding your peace as you grow in consciousness to have the resources that God has promised you, or whether it is being at the brink of potentially losing your job and being able to hold your peace and still show up with 100%, or whatever it is that meditation releases power that is latent, that if you tapped it would make all the difference in your experience. Marvin says, Quimby says not to mistake opinions for facts. I know that's right. Yes. Mia, sorry, Mia. Mia says, I struggle with directing my prayers. If I am God, do I thank myself? LOL. Yes, you do. But that's a whole other conversation. I'm confused whether I should separate myself from the source or knowing that I am the source or part of it. Sorry, my thoughts are jumbled. I'm not sure if I should ask or give thanks for already having. So just to respond to that, Mia, because this actually came up in the conversation with Dr. Coleman today. So here I am teaching some more stuff, Constance, that I am still incorporating, but I'm going to trust you to back me up. So it is you that you're in communion with. It is you that you're learning to listen to, but it's the big you. It's the you that is all-seeing, all-knowing, all providing. And Mia, I don't know if you were here for this lesson a while back, and I don't know when I did it, but I did this exercise where I had people just to keep, obviously you're situated where you are. I'm sitting in this hotel. But even though I'm sitting in this hotel, that right where I'm sitting, I can, with the Christ of my being, leave this space and leave this hotel. I can transport myself back to O'Hare Airport, and I can see myself in O'Hare Airport, and I can perceive the hustle bustle around me in O'Hare Airport. Now, locally, I'm still localized right here. I can get on a plane, the invisible me, the Christ of me, fly back to LA. I can see myself standing at baggage claim waiting for my brother to pick me up, Jordan sitting in the car seat on top of the luggage. All this is happening in the Christ of my being. And I can get in the car with my brother and him drive home, and feel myself reorienting myself to Los Angeles, even though I am localized right here. That's what you're learning to commune with. You're learning to commune with that part of yourself that is all-seeing, all-knowing, and everywhere evenly present. That even though you're localized in whatever city you're in, that you have the ability to go anywhere on the planet. What you learn to do with the prayer and the communing with the big You is that you learn that the places that you habitually send the big You, Y-O-U, is then where you then end up in the flesh. Most of us don't even recognize the what I would call the little me, the me that's consciously here right now, and the me versus the me that is everywhere evenly present, that can be in this room but can also be down in the lobby and can also be at home. I can be in the lobby and I can be at home at the same time, even though I'm localized here sitting at this desk. That most of us are unaware of that connection, or we don't pay attention to it. And so when the scripture says it's nearer than my own breath, that this is the Christ of my being that I'm learning to commune with, that I'm learning to be in conversation with. So when I say I'm praying to myself, that's what I mean by praying to myself, that I am praying to that aspect of me that is everywhere evenly present, that has no boundaries, that's not contained by this physical body, that can go anywhere, be anywhere, do anything, see anybody, hang with anybody, experience anything. Most of us send the Christ of our being into forms that we do not want, because most of our days are spent in some type of quiet desperation. And so we are either constantly in worry, constantly in fear, constantly in sadness, constantly in confusion, constantly in criticism. The only time we get a break is when we go to sleep. But here's the problem. The Christ of our being goes where it habitually has been taught to go. It's a tandem relationship. So it is guiding and directing us, right? It has the wisdom that we need. It's contained within us. It's with us everywhere we go. I don't have to go to a church to get it. I don't have to talk to a minister to find it. I can access it within myself. But I also have to then turn around and say yes to the direction that it gives me. So it's this very interesting dichotomy or interesting relationship that happens between me and the Christ of my being. And so I must, well, it always says yes to me, but and always says yes to you, but we don't always say yes to it. We must give infinite intelligence, another way to talk about the Christ. We must give infinite intelligence the right of way. That when we get an intuitive hunch, we act on it. We don't just sit on it. That when we get the hunch to call someone, we make the phone call. That when we get the hunch to write something down, we write it down. Whatever that is, the Christ of our being is constantly impressing information on us. And so in that communion, you start to learn this partnership. Reverend Della would call it a partnership that you have with God. And you have the ability to feel it. It's tangible or as an experience. And what I mean by that is that even if you have your hands, I have my hands upturned like this. If you have your hands upturned and you close your eyes without your hands, let's say touching, resting on something, that you can feel the vibration in your hands. And that's the vibration of the living one expressing itself as you. You can develop a sensitivity, and this is one of the benefits of meditation. You can develop a sensitivity that this electricity, or that's the term I'm using, that you feel pulsating in your hands, that you feel it all over your body. A lot of people experience that when they get into like a church setting or a corporate worship experience, that the music and the sermon and all of the various elements that are part of the worship experience, that it ignites that energy that's always been there inside of them. They call it getting happy, because it's like your entire body is on fire. They talk about it as the fire shut up in my bones. That it's like this energy that's just It's palpable. You can perceive it. This is the Christ of your being. What meditation does is it slows you down, your conscious mind. It slows you down so that you can begin to perceive who you really are. You can begin to perceive the depth of who you are. Because you deep. You deep. Mia says, ooh, that sounds like astral projection or something. I don't know that term. I mean, I've heard the term, but I don't really know the definition of it, but it sounds right. But yes, it is your higher self, the Christ self, but they have many names for it. The point is that it is this energy intelligence that indwells you. It is God within you. Dr. Coleman must have known you would be teaching tonight. He must have. He's leaving tomorrow. I think I'm going to get to have breakfast with him, and I will arrange for him to come back to the Bible Hangout. So we will, in fact, we'll plan it out, and we will have all of our questions handy so that we may drill him and draw out all that juicy information from him. So we'll figure that one out. We'll put that on the books before the end of the year. Meditation will give you clear direction. Evan Reed, who is the senior minister for Verity Center for Better Living, which is our sister church in Toronto, Canada, said this yesterday. I don't know, these days are blending together. He said, I have never been to now, meaning this moment. I have never been to now. And when you think about that, we have never been to now. Now, none of us have ever shown up to this moment until this moment. And so it is only infinite intelligence that knows what is needed for this moment. It is only infinite intelligence that knows what is needed for this moment. And so the reason that you work to develop the prayer posture where you pray without ceasing is that you ain't never been to now. This now is new to you, just like it's new to me. And so you don't know what is exactly needed in this moment. And what meditation does for you is it slows you down so that you may feel the intuitive nudge of the Christ of your being that is always trying to tell you, do this, try that, go here, speak to that person, look this way. The Christ of your being is always working with you to teach you how to pay attention to the things that reveal your inner divinity and enhance and nurture your spiritual mastery. This is always your intuition is self-serving. It is always looking out for your best interest. And it is always looking out for the avenue based on the circumstances that is the best way for you to express the highest level of divinity that you are willing and capable of expressing in that moment. And your job is to get quiet enough so that you may be present to the Christ of your being and its guidance and direction. You have the ability to do that, and meditation releases that power that is latent within you. Meditation releases that power that is latent within you. And so you are never stuck. You are never without an option. You are never just, having to take things just as they are, that you always have the option to be available to God in the present moment. And if you will be available to God in the present moment, all power on heaven and earth is given unto me. There is nothing that I cannot stand right here and have a critical thought pressed out, pointed in a particular direction, and make it, it's more like allow, but still make it happen, because it feels like that when it comes, like, I made this happen. But it's not a make, because you don't force the spirit, right? But it feels like that when your intention gets that clear. Phyllis says, Christ enthroned in you. Yes, Mama. Yes, 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 yes. and you enthroned in Christ. Because that's the other thing. We still think of God in me as like juice in the cup. But the thing about the juice in the cup is the juice can be poured out. It is much more like linked in such a way as to be inseparable. That there is no distance or difference between God and me. Checking. Okay. Meditation gives you unity with others. Meditation has the power to unify those who choose to consciously breathe together. One mind, one breath, one mind, one spirit. This idea I've shared with you previously, talking about the stuff that I've been reading in 11 Rings, which is Phil Jackson's, one of his autobiographies, talking about his time with the Bulls and with the Lakers and coaching them, both those teams, to championships. And he talks about the use of meditation to help the men playing basketball to understand the spiritual aspect of the game and to enhance all of the other, of course, coaching work that he's doing with them. And the meditation that he insists on is that they meditate at practice and they meditate before the games. They really only meditate or breathe together in quiet for probably about 5 to 10 minutes. But what happens when you breathe together is that you develop one mind and you develop one spirit. And what happens is you develop this cohesiveness. Now, I actually have practical experience with this with my church. We have a meditation right in the center of service, and we have been a small group for a decent amount of time. Meaning, when I say small, meaning on a Sunday, somewhere between 50 and 60 people, sometimes as low as 30 people. We've been breathing together regularly as a body, as a spiritual body. And recently we pulled together an event for Reverend Della's 85th birthday. And this event was, when I tell you off the chain, everything just moved smoothly. And it wasn't that there weren't hiccups. There were actually quite a few hiccups. But there was this incredible level of cooperation and spirit, and wherever there was a hole, somebody saw it and filled it. Wherever there was a mistake, somebody just jumped in and corrected it. And sometimes when you're putting events together, you can get that what I call nice nasty, where it's like, well, so-and-so didn't bring this, or people are grumpy in the kitchen. The food might taste good, but you don't want to be back there with the making of the food because it's, you can get cut, while they trying to cut the onions. All of a sudden you get, shanked in the side. So none of that. That there was this just beautiful energy of cooperation. And what I realized, and this all kind of culminated with me reading 11 Rings, it's like we've been breathing together now as a spiritual community every Sunday together as a community for over a year. No wonder this small group of about 20 people pulled off this massive birthday event for Reverend Della, because we've been breathing together as a community for over a year. That we move now like one mind, one breath, one spirit. And so there is this incredible energy that meditation can give you, especially when done in tandem with the community. It's also why I'm excited about the Mastermind Prayer Call, because we really have an ability to do something incredible to support one another and to really just leap into the stratosphere. And what I know for sure is that God meets us at our point of limitation. So whatever it is that is the furthest that we can stretch, Spirit comes and grabs us and takes us the rest of the way. And so I'm excited to see what comes out of this praying together as a mastermind group. I know it's going to be phenomenal. So how long do you have to meditate to see benefits? Well, here's the thing. Daily meditation is wonderful. I recommend it. And yes, you can receive benefits from one-off meditation. Yes.
More opportunity and more good jobs with
rising there we go.
Right here in the...
Got it. Ron, I just muted you. Hey, welcome. So daily meditation is awesome, right? Daily meditation is absolutely incredible. You can get benefits from one-off meditation. I know you've probably experienced it. My question to you is that all you want? Because daily meditation, if you make that commitment for daily meditation, it changes you at depth. When you, on a daily basis, open up to God, there is nothing is kept off limits from you. All power on heaven and earth is given to you because you have opened yourself to receive that power. It is amazing. This I wanted to share with you. So this picture, you probably can't see the surprise on Shaq's face. This picture is in Phil Jackson's book, 11 Rings. And this is Kobe passing the ball to Shaq. Now, what is significant is that, and I'm going to pull up my notes so I can read at the same time. Uh-oh. Go back. What is significant is that Kobe started out really as a very selfish player. Those of you who follow basketball, you're probably deeply aware of this, of how much he was selfish. That when it was time to, when he get the ball, he didn't think about passing. He was immediately looking like, how can I score? Because he was going for the scoring title, and trying to, make sure that he keeps his numbers up. And Phil Jackson, really what he saw when he came to the Lakers is that he thought that they were a talented but highly unfocused team because they often fell apart in the playoffs because of their attack. It was so confused, it was undisciplined, and there were better teams like the San Antonio Spurs and the Utah Jazz that had figured out how to neutralize the Lakers' most potent weapon, which was Shaquille O'Neal. And so, yeah, they could make a number of tactical moves to counter the weaknesses, but what the players really needed was a way to quiet the chatter in their minds and focus on the business of winning basketball games. And when he was the coach of the Bulls, the players had to deal with the Michael Jordan media caravan, but that was nothing compared to the distractions the Lakers faced in the belly of celebrity culture in Los Angeles. And to get the players to settle down, he introduced them to one of the tools that he'd successfully used with the Bulls, which was mindfulness meditation. Now, the thing about Kobe is that Kobe was deeply selfish. He came in, he's a very, that's not his only characteristic, so I don't want this to be that damning of him. I think, everybody's learning and growing. But he, as a player, he was not, as a team member, he was not very generous. And he was always looking out for himself. The way that Phil Jackson describes him is that he was stubborn, he was hard-headed as far as a learner, and he was so confident in his ability that you really couldn't just point out his mistakes and expect him to offer his behavior. He was a selfish player. He refused to be told what to do. Whenever he got the ball, he would take the shot, never passing to his teammates. He was constantly trying to win games by himself. But this is the thing. If you persist in opening up your heart to spirit, change happens. After a season of exposing the players to meditation during practice, before every game, this is what happens. So they're playing this is like the Spurs or whatever, but they're playing this game. It's less than a minute left, and the Lakers are up by 4. Kobe is driving toward the basket and surprises the mess out of everybody by lofting a beautiful pass to Shaq, 2 feet above the rim, which Shaq grabs and dunks in. And that pass symbolized how far Kobe had come after a season of practicing opening up. So the daily meditation, and this is a season, and I can't even tell you that Kobe did it daily. I just know that he did it definitely for practice and definitely before the games, which meant that it was at least a few times during the week, if not, multiple times, a few more than that. But let's say maybe semi-daily. The point is that a season of meditating consistently at practice and before the games changed the dynamic of the Lakers within one season, with Phil Jackson getting there, and they go on to win a championship. And the question I have to you is, who do you think you will become if within a season of meditating and opening up and making a commitment to God to open up, who will you become? How will your heart change? Because I'm sure you're not you don't play like Kobe. You were not selfish. This is not that group, right? But we've all got things that we're trying to open up and break through in terms of our finances and our relationships and our health and our dreams and our goals. And who would you be if you made a daily commitment to open up? What would happen? What would be possible? That I find that just absolutely fascinating. Thank you, Constance. And keep I don't know if you can post that in the chat. Constance is posting a meditation that she uses from YouTube. Definitely post that in the chat. Daily meditation releases power. Here's the thing, don't be afraid to start small. Make a commitment to daily meditation and you will reap the benefits of increased spiritual power. If you can only do 60 seconds, do 60 seconds, but make it a faithful 60 seconds. It releases power. You have supernatural power in you. I don't know how to say that any differently. And when I say supernatural, I mean that because all power is natural to you, but it feels supernatural because when you begin to tap into who you really are, it feels like magic. You are just moving. I have an affirmation. Oh, y'all, I don't have it handy. I have an affirmation that I pulled from this book. And this was from, we're going to get to this chapter next week, with Catherine Ponder. And it's on page 26, and it says, I bless you and bless you for the riches of God that are now being demonstrated in and through you. And she said that you use it for like a purse. They said, if your purse seems empty, we should take it in our hands and bless it by affirming, I bless you and bless you for the riches of God that are now being demonstrated in and through you. Within a day of using that, and I wrote it down on a 3x5 card so that I would remember to say it. So when I go and spend money at the cash register, I say that meditation silently to myself. When I'm, if I'm just sitting, like today when I was sitting in the thing with Will Coleman teaching, a couple times my mind would wander, and I would reach down to my purse and put my hand on my wallet and just say, I bless you and I bless you for the riches of God that are being demonstrated in and through you now. Almost every day there has been some fresh new money added to my account, and I'm not kidding. It works, and it feels like magic, and there's supernatural power latent in you, unused. It don't belong to nobody else. Nobody else can get it. If you don't get it, it just sits there untapped. There is supernatural power in you. What the daily meditation does is it releases it into expression so that you may create the life that you want. This is available to you. Phyllis says, something is changing right now. You may have to add a word, Phyllis. I don't know what word you meant there. What do you meditate upon? So this may seem counterintuitive, but you do not meditate upon your problems. You do not meditate upon your problems. In fact, you do not think about your problems. You put them aside. Your thinking about your problems keeps your problems alive. Thinking about your problems keeps your problems alive. Instead, what you do is you contemplate only the goodness of God. If it helps, use a meditation guide, music, or a mantra, or like the video that I sent around with the MBH goodie for this week, which is the video from Esther Hicks, where you're meditating on how everything is always working out for you. You find meditation guides are great. Don't worry about, can I just sit quietly with no music? No, listen. Start where you are. If you need 60 seconds of just some peaceful, calm music, 60 seconds of some peaceful, calm music. Start somewhere where at least in a 24-hour day, you've got 60 seconds where you are not thinking about your problems. 60 seconds where you are only thinking about the aspect of God. A mantra is great because it keeps the mind focused. But here's another technique, and this helped me develop actually a deep concentration, was journaling my prayers. I would sit and I would write affirmations over and over and over again. And so you can, like this affirmation that I just shared with you from chapter 3 that we'll get to next week, that I bless you and bless you for the riches of God that are now being demonstrated in and through you. A wonderful thing to do is to take a sheet of paper, like a notebook sheet of paper, right? This just has some other information on it, but a notebook sheet of paper, and fill up both sides. And that's your meditation. You will be surprised. I thought that I was actually feeling bad that I wasn't pushing harder to learn how to meditate when I was focusing on journaling my prayers. It wasn't until I actually went back to meditation after about 4 years of journaling my prayers that I realized that I had developed concentration along the way. And here's why. Because our minds are wired in such a way that you cannot write about something and think about something different from what you're writing. Just try it. You cannot write about something and think about something different. For the length of time that you are writing out whatever it is you're writing out, and you know this. In fact, so if somebody starts talking to you while you're writing, you'll say, "Hold up, wait, give me 1 second. Let me put this down." Tell me if you haven't done that. So that is a concentration technique where you can bypass the conscious mind. And so you can literally sit and just write out affirmations. I bless you and I bless you. For the riches of God that are being demonstrated in and through you right now. As you can do that over and over and over again, and it develops you. That's the power that you have inside of you. I hear Jordan outside. I got to hurry up. Okay, keep going. So what if my problem persists? If you have a persistent problem, do this. Meditate first upon God's goodness, and then meditate on this thought. There is a divine solution to this situation. I accept and claim the divine solution in this situation now. And my challenge to you, if you are a new meditator, make a 7-day commitment. And if you are a seasoned meditator without a daily discipline, diagnose why. And spend some time figuring that out, but make a commitment. And finally, are you open? This is my call to action. Are you open to trying meditation, if you haven't, after tonight's conversation? And if you're a seasoned meditator but inconsistent, are you willing to make a greater effort to establish a daily discipline? And finally, did you hear anything tonight that can help you expand your prayer life and specifically your meditation practice? And so I ask that you just leave me a comment on YouTube and let me know how that works out for you. But if you're new to meditation, are you willing to try it? And if not, if not, tell me why. And if you are not new to meditation, but maybe you don't have a consistent practice, are you willing to make a greater effort to establish a daily discipline? Okay, Q&A. Questions? Oh, Phyllis says, my prayer life has changed and I am having this awareness of God's presence more and more. Yes. Mia says, yes, I need concentration. I've been meditating the wrong way for years and I know it. I have returned to journaling, but I need to organize that better. That journaling, I didn't know that was going to be a byproduct of it. It wasn't until, I don't even remember what it was. I had to do something that I realized that my concentration had increased. And I didn't even know that was going to come from that or the science behind it. The science behind it is something I actually just learned, I don't know, like in the last several weeks with reading The Magic of Thinking Big. Marvin says, I use mantras and you can also use a rosary. Yes, I've never used a rosary before, but Reverend Rowena from Atlanta, Rise Church in Atlanta, gave me a prayer rosary, and so I got to practice using that and see how that works for me. Or write letters to God. It's one of my favorite ways. Thank you, Constance, for posting that. You guys in the chat, Constance posted a YouTube video that we can take a look at that's a meditation that she's suggesting. And then, Phyllis, you sent me some prayer material I'm going to send out next week to everybody. So I'll send that out. Thank you for that. Any questions? Awesome. Thank you guys for tonight. Very much appreciated. Oh, here we go. Mia says, I've been listening to Catherine Ponder on YouTube, specifically a lecture on the dynamic laws of prosperity, and she spoke on pinning your thoughts with a pen. Oh, cute. So simple, but I meditated on that. I like that idea. I like that idea. Pinning your thoughts with the pen. Very cute. Constance says, no questions, quite a full today, overload. Constance and I don't know if anybody else I'm looking was here, we've been in continuing education for the Universal Foundation for Better Living. And so we started the morning with Evelyn Boyd, Reverend Evelyn Boyd from Christ Universal Temple, who is one of the staff ministers and just phenomenal teacher. And then the afternoon was spent with Dr. Will Coleman, another phenomenal teacher. And so it's just like, whoo, can I get some water and just rest? Oh, wonderful. Yes, Reverend Reed. I forgot. Yes, Reverend Reed, Reverend Evan Reed. That's who said that this morning. He did say that today. That I have never been to now. Thank you, Reverend JJ. So glad to have you. Thank you, guys. And yes, Judy, see you tomorrow night. Those of you that are in Chicago, Christ Universal Temple is hosting its Faith in Action New Thought Revival. So if you ever want to know what a New Thought Revival looks like, come tomorrow night at 11901 South Ashland Avenue in Chicago, Illinois, free to the public. Come have a good time. We're doing a tag team sermon. What's funny is that they're actually using this book as the text for the service, and I'll be preaching on chapter 3, which is what we're studying next week. So funny. But please definitely come hang out. I'd love to see you. And Judy, if you can remember, because I don't know where my head is going to be tomorrow, I want to take a picture with all of my Chicago people so I can include it in the newsletter. So just at some point, if we could do that. And Phyllis says, where in Toronto is your sister church? I'm going to email you, Phyllis, because I don't have the daily inspiration immediately handy, but I will email you. But it's Verity Center with a TRE, Verity Center for Better Living Church. And the Reverend Evan Reed is the minister, and I'll email you right now when we finish with his information. All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you guys so much. Next week, please read chapter 3. And we will go from there. Take care.